All right, here we go. Am I the asshole here? I need a reality check, like a hard one. Steven's been gone for 3 days now, and the silence in this apartment is so loud it's deafening, making my ears ring. My number's blocked, my emails go into a void, and the complete silence feels like a physical weight on my chest. It's not just quiet, it's an absence. His side of the closet is a cavern of empty hangers, and I swear even the faint scent of his cologne is gone. His ugly-ass Star Wars coffee mug isn't by the sink. The toothbrush holder has a single, lonely slot open now. Even the dent on his side of the sofa, the one molded perfectly to him from 5 years of late-night movies, is starting to spring back, erasing him. He didn't leave a note, he didn't scream or fight. He just vanished. Packed up his entire existence here while I was at work, like a professional, leaving no trace. And the worst part is, I can only trace it back to one single, stupid moment. One goddamn toast at his promotion party. I made a joke. A sharp, edgy joke that I thought was our brand of humor. Now I'm sitting here, staring at the space where his PS5 used to be, and I have to ask, was that joke really a relationship-ending bomb? Or am I just the clueless, colossal asshole who lit the fuse without even realizing it? Please, someone give me a straight answer. I feel like I'm losing my mind. To understand the joke, you have to understand us, or at least who I thought we were. For 5 years, Steven was my anchor. He's the kind of guy who remembers that I hate cilantro. The kind who would quietly assemble a piece of IKEA furniture for 6 hours while I was at brunch, never once complaining. He was steady, solid, and dependable in a way that I secretly relied on but publicly mocked. I, on the other hand, move in a different world. My friends, led by my best friend Jessica, are a pack of piranhas. We work in PR and marketing, and our entire social dynamic is built on a currency of razor-sharp wit and brutal, performative honesty. We roast each other mercilessly. It's our love language. If you can't take a hit, you're not in the circle. And I dragged that culture right into my relationship with Steven. I'd have them over for dinner, and I'd perform. I'd tell stories that framed him as my sweet, simple man, the lovable golden retriever to my sophisticated cat. I'd make little digs about his 9-to-5 IT job being adorable or his taste in action movies being basic. And he never, ever fought back. He'd just offer everyone another beer, give this small, tight smile, and maybe squeeze my hand under the table. I genuinely, stupidly, interpreted that as him being in on the joke. I thought he was the strong, silent type, secure enough to let my barbs bounce off him. I never noticed how his shoulders would tense or how he'd get quiet for an hour after my friends left. The biggest red flag I ignored came from a story he told me once, years ago. It was late, we'd had some wine, and he opened up about his family in a way he never had before. They weren't monsters, just perpetually disappointed. A family of surgeons and professors who viewed his passion for technology as a quirky, dead-end hobby. We visited them for Christmas once, and I saw it firsthand. His father, after hearing about my latest campaign, patted Steven on the shoulder and said, in front of everyone, "Well, someone's got to keep the lights on, I suppose. Still playing with those computers, son?" Steven's entire career, every late night he spent studying for another certification, was a quiet, desperate battle to prove them wrong. He once told me, his voice barely a whisper, "My biggest fear is that I'll look back in 20 years and realize they were right all along." I remember hugging him, telling him how brilliant he was and that he'd never be the failure they saw. And then I filed that vulnerability away and, God help me, I completely forgot about it. The party was supposed to be his victory lap. After years of being underpaid and overlooked at a faceless tech corporation, he'd finally landed a major promotion. Not just a title bump, but a real one. Project lead for a new international initiative. It was a huge deal, the culmination of all those late nights spent studying, all those weekends he'd given up. He was so genuinely, purely happy, in a way that lit him up from the inside. He wanted to celebrate at this low-key brewery he loved, the one with the sticky floors and the amazing craft beer. But I vetoed it. I insisted on something flashier. A trendy downtown rooftop bar, the kind my friends would post on their Instagram stories, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs. I invited my whole crew, alongside a handful of his work friends. Looking back, the scene was a perfect metaphor for our relationship. His colleagues were earnest and nerdy, huddled together talking about code and server capacity, dressed in comfortable slacks and company polos. My friends, led by Jessica, stood in a tight, judgmental circle, all sharp angles and designer labels, sipping $1,000 cocktails and whispering. The two groups didn't mix. They orbited each other like planets from different solar systems. Stephen didn't seem to notice. He was floating, buzzing with a kind of energy I hadn't seen in years. He spent the night with his arm wrapped around me, pulling me into his circle, proudly introducing me to everyone. "This is Madeline," he'd say to his boss, to his workwife Sarah, his voice filled with a warmth that makes my stomach physically clench to remember now. "She's the one who kept me sane through the last project." Then came the toasts. His boss, a balding man named David, gave a heartfelt, if slightly awkward, speech about Stephen's dedication and problem-solving skills. A few of his work buddies cheered loudly. Then Stephen stood up, his beer glass in hand. He was nervous, you could see him shifting his weight, but his eyes found mine across the room and he smiled. He thanked everyone and then he said, "And I especially want to thank Madeline. You've been there through all the frustrating parts and you always believed in me, even when I didn't." My heart should have melted. Any normal person's heart would have. Instead, I saw a stage. I saw an audience. I saw Jessica catch my eye and give me a little smirk, a silent your turn dare. I felt the familiar pressure rise in my chest. The need to perform, to deliver a line that was sharp and funny, and would reaffirm my status as the cool, witty one in the relationship. I got up, grabbing my champagne flute with a theatrical flourish. The room went quiet. I beamed at Stephen, a wide, predatory smile that I thought was charming. "To Stephen," I announced, my voice ringing out a little too loudly in the sudden hush. I paused for dramatic effect. "Who, after all these years, has finally managed to prove he isn't a complete and utter loser." I delivered the word loser, with a playful, sarcastic punch, winking at him. I was expecting a wave of laughter, a shared moment of our edgy humor, but it never came. There was a beat of absolute, deafening, soul-crushing silence. I saw the smiles freeze and then melt off the faces of his colleagues. I saw Sarah's eyes widen in horror. I saw his boss, David, suddenly find the floor intensely interesting. And then my eyes landed on Stephen. The light in his face just went out. It wasn't anger. It wasn't sadness. It was something much, much worse. It was a shutter coming down, a heavy iron door slamming shut right in front of me. His face went completely blank, drained of all color, leaving behind a hollow, empty mask. He just stood there, holding his glass, as my hilarious joke hung in the air and poisoned the single proudest moment of his adult life. The rest of the party was a blur of excruciating awkwardness. People started making excuses to leave almost immediately. "Oh, look at the time, gotta let the babysitter go. Big day tomorrow, you know how it is." No one made eye contact with me. I tried to salvage it, laughing it off, grabbing Stephen's arm and saying, "Oh my God, you guys, he knows I'm kidding." But my laughter sounded shrill and desperate in the rapidly emptying room. Stephen didn't say a word. He just stood there, a ghost at his own celebration, nodding politely as his colleagues gave him quick, pitying pats on the shoulder before scurrying away. The car ride home was the longest 20 minutes of my life. The silence was a living thing, thick and suffocating. I kept trying to fill it, my voice sounding unnaturally high. "That was a great turnout, huh? David seems really nice. I can't believe how expensive the drinks were. That's insane, right?" He just stared out the passenger window, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscle jumping. He didn't look at me once. When we got back to the apartment, the silence followed us inside. I tried again, cornering him in the kitchen. "Babe, you have to talk to me. It was a joke." A stupid joke, I admit it, but you know my sense of humor. I was just trying to be funny for my friends. He finally turned to look at me, and his eyes were completely dead. There was no anger, no hurt, just nothing. It was like looking at a stranger. "I'm tired, Madeline," he said, his voice flat and monotone. "I'm just really tired." Then he walked past me, went into the guest bedroom, and quietly shut the door. I stood there for a full minute, stunned. He'd never done that before. In 5 years, through every argument we'd ever had, we had never gone to bed in separate rooms. I was annoyed, even a little indignant. I thought, fine, be dramatic. You'll get over it by morning. I went to our bed, convinced that a good night's sleep would reset everything. I was so fucking naive. The next day, I went to work as usual, still stewing in a weird mix of guilt and self-righteousness. I texted him an apology around noon. Hey, really sorry about last night. That was dumb. Let's get takeout tonight and forget about it. Love you. The message delivered, but there was no reply. When I got home that evening, the apartment felt wrong. It took me a second to place it. The air was still. Then I saw it. The rack by the door where he kept his keys and wallet was empty. I walked into the living room. The PS5 was gone. My heart started to hammer against my ribs. I ran to our bedroom. His side of the closet was bare. The drawers of his dresser were all open and empty. His deodorant, his toothbrush, his stupidly expensive face wash, all gone. He hadn't just left. He had surgically removed himself from my life, and he'd done it so quietly, so efficiently, that I hadn't even heard a thing. No note, no final text. Just a gaping, silent void where he used to be. Panic, pure, undiluted panic. For the first hour, I was a machine of denial. I called his phone. Straight to voicemail. I called again. Voicemail? After the 10th try, I realized the ringing pattern had changed. He hadn't just silenced it, he'd blocked my number. My hands started shaking. I sent him a barrage of texts on WhatsApp. A single gray checkmark. Blocked there too. Facebook Messenger? Same thing. It was a digital wall erected swiftly and completely. He had severed every possible line of communication. My next move was to call Jessica. She was my best friend, my partner in crime. She'd seen the whole thing. I dialed her number, my voice already cracking with tears before she even picked up. "Jess, he's gone," I sobbed. "He packed all his stuff and left. He blocked me everywhere." I expected a flood of sympathy, a tirade against him for being overly sensitive, a strategy session on how to win him back. Instead, there was a weird, long pause on the other end of the line. "Oh," she said. Her voice was flat, cautious. "Wow, that's intense." "Intense?" He just disappeared, over a joke. "You were there, you know I was just kidding around." I pleaded, desperate for her validation. Another pause. This one was even more uncomfortable. "Yeah, I guess," she hedged. "Look, Maddie, it was pretty rough. The look on his face, I don't know." "What do you mean you don't know? You're my best friend. You're supposed to be on my side." "It's not about sides," she said, and her voice had a new edge to it, a distance I had never heard before. It made everyone really uncomfortable. Maybe you should just give him some space, you know." The conversation ended soon after that, with her making a lame excuse about a work call. I hung up feeling colder and more alone than before. I tried a few other friends from our group. The response was universally the same: awkward silence, non-committal murmurs, and a hasty retreat. "That's crazy. Hope you guys work it out. Let me know what happens." No one offered to come over, no one defended me. It was like I had a contagious disease. They had all been in the audience for my grand performance, and now that the show had ended in disaster, they were slipping out the side door, leaving me alone on the stage with the wreckage. The very people whose approval I had so desperately craved were now treating me like a liability. I had played the part of the cool, detached girl for them, and in the process, I had become utterly, terrifyingly alone. For days, I existed in a fog of stale takeout and unwashed laundry, cycling through rage and a gut-wrenching despair. I kept expecting him to crack, to send a furious text, anything. But there was only silence. On the 4th day, I couldn't take the emptiness anymore. I started cleaning, a frantic, desperate attempt to impose some order on the chaos of my life. I stripped the bed, threw out old magazines, and then I started on his old desk in the corner of the living room, the one he'd used for studying. It was mostly cleared out, but he'd missed one of the smaller drawers, the one that always stuck. I had to pry it open with a butter knife. Inside, there was a thin, forgotten manila folder. My heart lurched, thinking it might be a letter, a final explanation. It wasn't. It was something so much worse. On top was a printed-out document from a mortgage broker. It was a pre-approval letter for a home loan, dated just 2 weeks prior. And there, right at the top, were both of our names, Stephen Powell and Madeline Chen. My breath caught in my throat. He had been looking at houses, for us. Underneath, it was a brochure from a local jeweler, the kind of elegant, understated place I'd once pointed out while window shopping. It was folded open to a page showcasing engagement rings. A simple, beautiful solitaire diamond in a platinum setting had a small, faint pencil circle around it. I sank to the floor, the papers trembling in my hands. The air rushed out of my lungs. All those times I had teased him about being stuck in his job, all those jokes about him lacking ambition in front of my friends. While I was busy performing my cynical, witty act, he was quietly, diligently building a future for us. He wasn't just working for a promotion, he was working for that house, for that ring, for a life with me that I had been too blind and too arrogant to see. My joke at the party wasn't just an insult. It was a complete repudiation of everything he had been working towards. I hadn't just called him a loser. I had validated the deepest, darkest fear his family had instilled in him his entire life. And I had done it at the very moment he thought he had finally escaped it. And I had done it for a cheap laugh from people who wouldn't even answer my calls now. The weight of it crushed me. I just sat there on the floor, surrounded by the ghost of a future I had murdered, and I sobbed until I had nothing left. And that brings me back to now. To this hollow apartment, to the glow of my laptop screen at 3 in the morning. The initial shock has worn off, replaced by a dull, constant ache. I did something I swore I wouldn't. I created a fake Instagram account, a burner profile with a generic flower avatar and 0 followers. And from this pathetic, anonymous little foxhole, I watch him. His profile is public again. He'd made it private when we were together because I complained about his coworkers seeing our vacation pictures. 2 days ago, he posted for the first time since he left. It's a group photo taken at what looks like a family barbecue. He's standing in the middle, grinning, with his arm around his older sister. He looks lighter, happier than I've seen him in years. The caption is simple, "New beginnings, so grateful for the people who always had my back." My eyes scanned the comments, my heart pounding. And there it was, a comment from his sister, the one who was always a little wary of me. She wrote, "You were never a loser, Stevie. We have always been and will always be proud of you." That one sentence was a clean, sharp blade right through my chest. It undid me completely. It was the anti-venom to my poison, the validation he had always deserved and that I had so cruelly withheld. They knew. They all knew what I had done. He wasn't hiding. He was healing, surrounded by the very people he once felt he had to escape. I spend my nights now as a ghost haunting the edges of his new life. I zoom in on that picture, dissecting his smile, searching for any flicker of sadness, any hint of regret for what he left behind. But there's nothing. There's just a man who looks free. And I'm the one who's trapped, endlessly scrolling, refreshing the page, waiting for another picture, another comment, another knife to twist. This is my hell. The one I built for myself, one witty, cruel joke at a time.